Well, welcome to the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce Daily Action Call. I'm Deborah Hooper, the COO for the Chamber. This week, we began a new format for our daily calls using different members of our Chamber staff to host and also to have these calls focused on business and lifestyle topics as we all create our new normal. There's no playbook that we've had available to pull out and follow. We're literally all working together to develop that playbook. The archive of all of our previous calls can be found on the Chamber website at greensboro.org/COVID-19. I do want to thank our Circle of Champions partners. They support our programming year-round and enable us to bring programming like this to you today. So at the Platinum level, we have a Legacy Federal Credit Union, Cone Health, Lincoln Financial Group, Truliant Federal Credit Union, and VF Corporation. And at the gold level, we have Navant Health. At the silver level, Global Brands Group, Kelly Office Solutions, Ralph Lauren, Staunton Capital, and Wake Forest Baptist Health. And we are so appreciative of their support. So let's get started with Work at Home Wednesday. This is designed to share tips and ideas for how to work effectively and efficiently at home. And I know that is certainly a goal every day that we're all trying to accomplish. So last week, we asked for some ideas on Work at Home Wednesday topics, and Tracy Myers, our Executive Vice President of Member Engagement, suggested today's topic. So thank you, Tracy. I know you're on the call. After a few weeks of trying to work remotely at home while parents also homeschool their kids, we think it's time to share some best practices and some tips on how to accomplish what I'm just going to call this amazing feat. Our theory about this topic was, I think, really validated last night on the NBC Nightly News. They had a story about how some parents were really trying to cope with the stresses of keeping the household going, working full-time from home while teaching and parenting their children, and really under the cloak of this pandemic and all the stresses that brings. So we have a great topic expert today, Dr. Whitney Oakley, Chief Academic Officer for Guilford County Schools. Welcome, Whitney.
Thanks.
And also with me to co-host the conversation is one of our working parents on the Greensboro Chamber's Member Engagement Team, Heavenly Walker. Heavenly, welcome.
Hello, everyone.
So Heavenly also has a daughter who's a student with Guilford County School System. So Whitney, she is one of your parents. And I am going to kick off the conversation with you, and then I'm going to ask Heavenly to facilitate the conversation from the parents' point of view. So first, to really set the context for our discussion today, I want to acknowledge that our Guilford County School System, that team had to create an online learning environment for more than 70,000 students in about 2 weeks as a result of this pandemic. So Whitney, can you briefly share with everyone what that looked like and also where we are right now with getting all of our students online and learning?
Sure. What it looked like from our standpoint was mostly our initial focus was making sure we had a plan to feed students, and following that, it was how to keep students engaged in learning, knowing that there's a lot of households with multiple children doing multiple things and maybe not enough devices or any devices or connectivity. And so we had a cross-sectional team that included parents, our student advisory council, and really focused a lot on the internet safety side to start out with. And what we ended up doing was launching teacher-led. Teachers felt very strongly about wanting to keep their class. They didn't want to have some random 2nd or 8th or 11th grade teacher leading instruction that they had never met before. So preserving the relationship. So the team spent 2 weeks working with teachers so that teachers knew how to teach through Canvas. Guilford County at this point in time is not a Google district, so lots of places are using Google Classroom, Google Apps for Education, but Canvas is the secure platform that our teachers had access to, that we had licenses for students, and that is internet safe proof. And so we built a platform where teachers could do as much as they could of their regular day interacting with students in the Canvas platform. And we began to build lessons and launch instruction the week after school closure in Canvas, and it's still not perfect. But more and more people are getting on every week. More and more lessons are being completed. There's more engagement through video and discussion boards. And so we're on the right trajectory. As of yesterday, we had 6,999 students out of our 73,000 students who had not yet logged in. And so we're currently focusing on how to engage those students and to make sure that they have the access they need to engage in learning as we continue during this school at home, work at home period.
No, that that actually is amazing that you've been able to accomplish that in such a short period of time. Would you say that the students that you're still trying to get connected are some of the most at-risk students?
Yes, a lot of them, yes. So, I mean, I think the kindergarten through 11th grade students are, we know who they are. So principals have tracked, and so we know who they are. We're just trying to find them and to find out their why. And most of them are in our schools that are in the most hyper segregated areas of poverty. There's a small subset of seniors who are also in that group, a few hundred, who, as soon as the state board guidance was posted, if they were passing on March 13th, just kind of checked out and moved on. So there's a small set of seniors in that number, but most of those kids are our kids that do live in poverty, do live in areas where connectivity and access is a real reality for them.
Okay. Well, using that Canvas platform, can you give us a feel for what online learning looks like? I mean, is it the same rigor as in the classroom? Are the expectations the same for the students in terms of academic learning and testing?
So I would never say that distance learning or remote learning is going to match the quality of what teachers can provide in a face-to-face environment. That goes for rigor, that goes for engagement. I think right now we're doing the very best we can, and our focus is really on prevention of learning loss. So there's all kinds of research that has come out this week that talks about students who are already doing well are likely to only retain about 70% of this year's learning in reading and only 50% of this year's learning in math. And those numbers are bigger for those students who are already facing inequities. And so what Canvas looks like is students have a secure login, and that's on purpose. We want to make sure that we're with the real student that is assigned to the real teacher. So that kind of provides some of that internet security that we need. It also lets us show what time students log in every day, how long they stay logged in. We're not measuring that or giving a grade on that, but it helps us know which students we have access to and which students we don't. Within the Canvas platform, students should see the courses that they're enrolled in if they're in middle and high school, and then the different assignments. And then, like, for example, my second grader, he has a language arts tab, a math tab, science, social studies, art, music, and physical education, and then a library media. And so he clicks on those each day and completes the assignments that's posted for that day. We're also getting a weekly teacher video that kind of sets the stage, and then interaction each day with the teacher on a discussion board. So no, it's not the same. But again, the deal here is we want to keep kids engaged. We're not trying to evaluate, we're trying to engage, and we're trying to prevent learning loss. And so that's what the system is designed to do between now and whenever we resume school in brick and mortar fashion.
Okay. Before I turn it over to Heavenly, I do want to encourage everybody to put any questions that you have in the chat room, and we will get to those. Um, Whitney, I know that you are not only an educator, but you also are a mom who is also working full time from home, and trying to also make sure that your children learn and keep moving forward. Um, so I know that you and Heavenly are going to have a very interesting conversation about sharing tips on how this can work really well. So Heavenly, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Deborah. Hi, Whitney. Um, I guess the first thing that I wanted to share was you having a second grader, and I have a middle schooler, which is two totally different worlds when it comes to education at home. You mentioned some of the resources that are available for students, such as Canvas. And my her teachers use Class Tag, which is an app that we use to communicate with. What would you highlight as some resources for parents, especially those that are in the elementary age, to stay engaged with the teachers, and or just resources in general to make sure that they are providing the best at-home education for their children?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think it's so important to remember that teachers are still teaching. And instead of 20 to 30 people sitting in front of them in their classroom, like they want to stay engaged with parents. And so I've talked to a lot of parents who have wondered how to contact teachers and asked them how they contacted them before, because that hasn't changed. And and so, like I've said, like, did you guys email, or did you use Class Dojo or Class Tag? And on the
Mhm.
elementary side, the Class Dojo is typically the most common one.
Okay.
Um, and so, and the email is totally fine. And every school webpage has a staff tab that has every teacher's email linked to it. But we want parents to ask questions. We want them to ask for help. If parents are looking for resources outside of Canvas and what teachers have provided, on the Guilford County Schools website under teaching and learning, there's resources by grade level that we're encouraging parents to access. If they feel like they need something in addition to, or just something that's easier to access or log into. So we're trying to continue to build that and open it up. But teachers are still teaching in the same way that we contacted them before, except for walking into the school building. We want parents to feel comfortable continuing to use.
That's great. That's awesome. And I guess I kind of thought about that. Again, my daughter, she's in the 8th grade, and she's pretty self-sufficient, which could be a positive and a negative, because sometimes I'm like, should I be on her more? Or, she will ask questions when she has them. And I will definitely reach out to her teachers when I need to. But then I thought about children that may have, they may have different learning styles.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would you, how would you, I guess, how would you handle that challenge?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's gonna be things just like when we're in school that don't work for some kids. So for example, we were kind of a mess here the first week at my house. We did not have a system in place. Like, I hadn't set parameters around time. I
Mm.
hadn't, I guess I was assuming that things would be okay. And then I got a message from my child's teacher that said, like, Hudson missed the last 3 questions in math because he worked ahead 4 days. And so, like, I needed her to then put a stop on it. Like, I need you to say to, don't go past page 6. And so we
Right.
had to work together to make sure that he didn't keep doing that, because there's no way while working that we can all be sitting there and engaged in both our jobs and our new teaching job all day long at the same time. It just doesn't work that way.
Right. Right. No, I totally understand. And I will say, the one thing I did do at the very beginning was, my daughter and I was like, okay, I want you to write out what your day should look like
Mm-hmm.
and then give it to me. It was definitely a rough draft in the very beginning. But we tweaked it a little bit because that was the only way with me working and, having my home office here and then her working. I knew I wasn't going to be able to, stay
Mm-hmm.
on top of every little thing. So I need to know, what should I be expecting from you each hour out of the day? So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's definitely an awesome tip. What would you say are, I would say, maybe the 3 most important tips that you think would be great for parents to know about or to at least consider?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're definitely age specific. So I'll just do mine knowing that
Okay.
I have a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old. So we do Sunday planning. So on Sunday, we say, like, here's the time we're going to start math. Here's the time, and here's when our first bicycle break is going to be. And so we build out from 8:30 until lunchtime, and we do that on Sundays. And then there's a little box next to each item for each day, and there's a different color marker that they then go use to check the box of what's completed. This other thing I would say is as an elementary person who's on calls all day, I have a special hat that I put on when it's not okay to come talk to me because I'm on a call like this. Like, so when they see that my pink Tar Heel hat is on, I'm off limits until that call is over, and then I go check right back in with them.
I
So,
love
like,
that.
visual signals for little kids are really helpful, and their teachers do that. Their teachers are doing, like, when the teachers are at a small table in the back of the room, those teachers have taught kids how to respond to that. um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's important to remember that. And then the last thing I would just say is, like, the reward systems and the predictability, those things are really good no matter how big or small you are. So, like, when we go on our after lunch walk and have ice cream or whatever, like, that's something that we can all look forward to. Or if we get through the whole day and we do board games at 3. So just like little tiny things each day that build in rewards, but also predictability, has been helpful for both the small people and me, as an adult who needs those structures too.
That's awesome. I love the special hat, and because I'm more of the, I hear her come downstairs and I immediately look and give the, like,
Yep.
quiet sign,
Yeah, we did that
the
weekend.
eye and the quiet sign at the same time.
Yep.
So I like the special hat and definitely rewards. I mean, she knows she can't get on any type of gaming console until we know all work is complete. Then you
Mm-hmm.
can get online with your friends and text and all of that fun stuff. So it looks like we have a question from Tracy Myers. And she's asking, what advice do you have for parents who may be inclined to teach a subject like math in the way they know versus newer methods? We are timid that we may set them up to need re-instruction.
That is such a good question. Um, so the newer methods, are never that we were doing it wrong, right? So the way that we learned math was not the wrong way. It's just that we learned the algorithms or the tricks in math. So we remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, but we may not remember why you would do the parentheses before the exponents. Our kids now are learning the why. And so, what I would say to that is show them how you know how to do it, but remind them that there's lots of different ways to do it. So there's no harm done in saying, well, when I did this problem, this is how I would solve it. But you
Mm-hmm.
might know a different way. Show me what that might look like. Also, in Guilford County Schools, we have adopted aligned instructional materials. So in kindergarten through 5th grade, that's Eureka Math. In 6th through 8th grade, that's Open Up Math. And in high schools, it's called Math Vision Project. That's mostly just for 9th graders, but all of those have digital resources for parents that they can watch what a model lesson looks like. They also have YouTube searchable content. So it's completely acceptable to go Googling when you're looking for different ways to solve a math problem. But it's also okay to say, hey, teacher, can you send me a video of how you might teach this? So nobody's going to do any harm. just remember that the way that you learned isn't always the only way. And we're kind of moved away from the tricks in recent years.
Yeah, I do recall being when Angel was in elementary, being like, yeah, it's just because it is. The answer is
Right.
the answer.
That's right. I don't want to have to show how. Yeah.
Right. I don't want to show my work, but like you mentioned, teachers still want to teach. And so they're definitely there to be a resource for the students and the parents when they have these types of situations. So that is excellent. I had one question, and I know, I'm sure everyone knows someone that is supposed to graduate, whether it's fifth grade, eighth grade, high school. Has there been any dialogue on, if or what something like that may look like in the future?
Yeah, it's the saddest part to talk about. I
Yeah.
have two neighbors who are seniors, and I think they've gotten to a place where they're at peace with it, but prom and, senior week and like when they missed going to like, there's just all the things that, that we're just not going to be able to recreate. And they've gotten creative, but it's just not the same. So what I can tell you is we're forming a task force of students that starts, I think, next Thursday, seniors and parents, to try to begin to get input. The dialogue is out there, but there is no formal plan. I can tell you the dialogue to date has been looking at dates, date options with both the Coliseum and the Tanger Center. We graduate 5,400 kids in
Yeah,
Guilford County, and it takes forever. Like, it's
it
all we
does.
do for like May and June.
Right.
And so we are trying to work with multiple venues. Our high schools are too big to do what some smaller districts are doing, like a drive-in theater where people would sit in their cars and, I don't know, watch videos, but like some of that's happening.
Okay.
We are trying to get options to do late summer before kids would leave for college. So like that, between July 30th and August 3rd as an option, but also right after Christmas when kids would be home, those kids that go to college would be home. So what we have heard is that students are not super interested at all in a virtual graduation. That's not what they had in mind. It's not the
Yeah,
same. And high school seniors think that's a ridiculous idea.
I understand that.
Yeah. And so they have been pretty clear so far in our student advisory group about wanting to have a plan for when they can do it in person. So I feel like that's where we're leaning, but having options for late summer, if that's a possibility, and if not, over that winter break period. But there is one thing that's for sure, and that's that we're going to have a graduation.
That's
But
awesome to hear.
yeah,
That's
it's the
awesome to hear.
only, yeah, we don't know when and we don't know how, but we know we're going to have one.
That's great. Let me also ask you, because like my daughter is transitioning to to high school, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
And I know there are students that everyone didn't get to finish doing like their class schedule for the ninth grade, or, do you think there will be some opportunity if we go back when fall starts back? Right now, we just don't know. It's kind of so much is up in the air.
Yeah.
But I guess, what do you think those transition periods would look like, or has that been a conversation?
It has been. And we're kind of waiting for this stay at home order period to see what happens, like how far, if at all, it gets extended. Not the May 15th, but like the governor issued stay at home period to try to decide the best way to do that. But what we're doing right now is every counselor is assigned to a student. And so during the months before June 15th, each counselor would reach out to their assigned group of students to make sure that the registration is complete, so
Okay.
that everybody's on the same page and know what their schedule is supposed to look like, especially for sixth graders and ninth graders and incoming kindergartners.
Yeah.
You can't miss, you don't already have a relationship with people at that school, and so you
Right.
need somebody to reach you. And so that individual assignment to a counselor between May and mid-June is what the plan is for that right now.
Okay. That is great. I don't see any other questions right now in the chat, and certainly just want to remind everyone, if you do have something, chat in the Zoom group chat or raise your hand.
I
Whitney,
do
is there
have.
any, I'm sorry.
Oh, Heavenly, I've got a question.
Sure.
We've talked about the tips for parents, and Whitney, I was curious from the perspective of teachers, like what do the teachers need from parents
Hmm.
right now?
That's a great question. Um, my, I don't, I only have the pulse on the teacher that I talk to every day or interact with every day. And what she has said, the hardest part has been is for the parents that she hasn't heard from yet, or the kids that she hasn't heard from yet. And so like they just want to know that you're there, I think. Mine has done some like my child's teacher has done some reward system things where she has like these virtual goodie bags that she drops stuff in, trying to keep kind of their behavior system working, but more for work completion. And so I asked her, is there anything we can do to support that? Mostly they want to know what people need because they don't get to see what's happening on the other side. So, I mean, I think feedback of this was way too much this week. We heard from a couple of parents of students in gifted education, particularly fourth and fifth graders, that said, like, we're spending way too much time between our regular classwork and our enrichment work. It's way too much, and we need you guys, you teachers, to get on the same page so that we're working with a more reasonable length day. So I really think they're open to feedback because they can't see it like they're used to seeing it, and they need to know what kids and parents are experiencing, but also what would make their experience better. So those are just some of the things that I've heard from talking to teachers. From the high school teacher lens, in Canvas specifically for people who have middle schoolers and high schoolers, um, we want kids to have the time that they need to complete their assignments, but we don't want them to wait until the very end. And so some sort of accountability of due date, and making sure that we're trying to stick to what the teacher has put out there so that kids aren't waiting till the very last minute, or that teachers are having to review 72 submissions on Thursday night. So those are just some of the high level things that I've heard this week so far.
Yeah, that's great. Um, I do want to ask if anybody on the call has any other questions. We'd love to hear from you. Whitney, I heard you say that, there's almost 7,000 students that you haven't heard from yet. And as you all determine what those needs are with those students, we want to keep an open door of communication so that we can better understand how we can help, right? So please let us know what you learned from that.
Okay.
And yeah, we would love to be supportive in any way that we can to make sure that those students have what they need.
Okay, that's excellent.
Yeah. All right, Heavenly, do you have anything else?
I don't think I have any other questions. I was just going to ask Whitney, is there anything specifically that she just thought that we should all walk away with from this call?
I think we all just got to keep giving ourselves some grace. I mean, I think from the working parent lens right now, like we shouldn't know how to do it because we haven't done it before. And there's no like, I don't know, like there's no perfect way for this. I keep waiting to be like, oh, we really got it all right today. And I don't think that day's coming. I think we're doing the best we can every day. And, while we're expecting kids to stay engaged in learning, we know that there's lots of families who are struggling, who have lots of access. And we know that there's families who are struggling just because this is our new normal. And so I think the message of giving ourselves grace, staying engaged is the best we can do right now as working parents, teachers, and students.
I think that's great advice.
Yeah.
I definitely think that we all do need to experience that grace, because we have, we haven't been through this before, and we're learning a lot about what the needs are and how to do things differently and perhaps better going forward. So it's an incredible learning experience from many perspectives, that's for sure. So, Whitney, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. We know that there is so much going on in Guilford County Schools, and for you to take some time to be with us and share your expertise and insight means so much. And Heavenly, thank you so much for facilitating the conversation today from the parents' point of view. I think we all learned a lot. Before we close out, I do want to remind everyone, if you have not completed your census form, please do so. It's super easy to complete it, and it's really, really important. We really need to get the number of seats and the amount of federal funding that North Carolina needs, especially coming out of this pandemic. So please get those forms completed. I do want to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon, and please join us tomorrow at 3 o'clock for Think Ahead Thursday. That's going to be hosted by Luann Flanders Stack, our Executive Vice President of Entrepreneurship for Launch Greensboro. And Clemson Tirangano from the Center for Creative Leadership is going to be joining her and sharing his expertise on crisis leadership. He will be providing a presentation and will be engaging with everyone in the audience, so to speak. So please join us using your video capability so that you can see the slides and actively participate in what he has planned. So we'll see you back here tomorrow at 3 o'clock and hope that you have a great rest of your day. Bye, everybody.